So when I first saw London, I was struck by one simple thought. This city looks like it has a very rich history behind it. And in terms of history, London was shaped in large part by two groups of people. One, the Romans. Two, the Anglo-Saxons. This travelogue is meant to explore London in terms of its history from the Anglo-Saxon period, and therefore I will talk about London after the Romans vacated the city, and this travelogue will focus specifically on London and not on England as a whole. With that out of the way, let's get started. After the Romans left London and Britain in general, the city began to crumble and decay. The city's population sharply declined, and the buildings fell into disrepair because people weren't in them. However, London, or Londinium as it was known at the time, had two things going for it. One, it was located at the mouth of the River Thames. Two, the Romans had built a network of roads with Londinium as the center. As a result of these two factors, the London area was perfect for trading. Now, we don't actually have a lot of reliable evidence about what happened to London from 450 to 600 AD. The only thing we really know is that the area was still active despite the fact that the early Anglo-Saxons steered clear of London. But, Anyway, because the River Thames is one of the major reasons why London was so valued in this time period, the first picture that I've chosen to show you is of the River Thames. However, unfortunately, the best picture I took of the River Thames is on my camera, and I haven't been able to find the cable to hook up my camera to my computer as of yet, so I'll have to make do with this picture. Also, as a disclaimer, I had to search the internet for my second and fourth pictures because I don't have any way of getting my pictures off my camera. I did take pictures of them, I just don't have them. Anyway, with that out of the way, the River Thames cuts through the heart of London, so if you want to get there, it's pretty easy to actually find it. Go to Tower Hill Station and walk to the Tower of London, for instance, and that's one way of getting there. Or you can cut through St. Paul's. Anyway, sometime in the 8th century, the Saxons created Londonwick, somewhere nearby Londinium. Even today, we don't know the exact location of Londonwick, but the current belief is that it was located somewhere around current-day Covent Garden. The Venerable Bede described Londonwick as a mart of many nations who visit by land and sea. It was around this time that the first coins were minted in Britain since the Romans. In 675, the now St. Yorsenwald re-established Christianity in London. The second picture I'm going to show you is of the Royal Opera House, located in Covent Garden. This picture was chosen because the Royal Opera House is located around the largest part of Londonwick that we have discovered. This part is a large grid of streets that span over 600,000 acres. To get there, simply take the Piccadilly line to Covent Garden and find Bow Street. It is within 2 minutes of the station. As I mentioned earlier, this is not a picture that I myself took. In the 9th century, Londonwick was a flourishing trade city, and because of that, it caught the eye of the Vikings. Starting in 830, the Vikings began to raid the city, and in 842, a fleet of 350 ships sailed against Londonwick and burned it to the ground. By 871, the Vikings had control of London. However, in 879, Alfred of Wessex retook Londonwick, but this did not stop the raids. So, as a result, in 886, Alfred decided to move the city back into the protection of the old Roman walls, and he formed Londonburg. The third picture that I'm going to show you is of one of the last surviving pieces of the Roman walls. You can see it by going to the Museum of London. To get there, you take the Central Line tube to St. Paul's and then walk down Aldersgate. This picture is relevant because of what we just talked about. In 886, Alfred of Wessex moved back from London and went back to the city walls, where he established Londonburg. Now, for a time, Londonburg had gained a great deal of importance. It was an important trade route now that it could be defended more easily, and under the guidance of Alfred, Londonburg once again began to prosper. In 911, London came under the direct control of the English kings, and through the 920s, it was the most important commercial center in England. In 978, the king of the time, King Ethelred the Unready, issued the laws of London, which was meant to better control the money system. However, unfortunately, during Ethelred's reign, the Vikings once again attacked. In 994, the Londoners were besieged by King Sweyn Forkbeard of Denmark. By 1013, Sweyn confronted Ethelred, and Ethelred was forced to flee. In 1014, however, Ethelred returned with St. Olaf of Norway. The Danes used a bridge on the Thames, known as the London Bridge, as a method of attacking the oncoming force brought by these two men. The attackers defended themselves by flinging off the roofs of nearby houses and using them as shields. They then attached rope to the bridge and pulled it down alongside most of the Danish forces. This incident is speculated to be where the nursery rhyme, "London Bridge is falling down," came from. This is also why my last picture is of the London Bridge. And why the London Bridge matters. For a long time, the London Bridge was the only bridge over the Thames that was actually in London. In order to get to the London Bridge, you just walk upstream from Tower Bridge, and to get to Tower Bridge, you walk upstream from the Tower of London, which is very close to Tower Hill. Now, 2 years later, Ethelred died. His son, Edmund Ironside, tried to hold back the invaders, and for a while he succeeded brilliantly. The men of the Sweyn's son, known as Canute, had to cut a large channel in order to get their ships close enough to land, according to popular legend. Edmund was eventually defeated and forced to share his country with Canute, but Edmund died not too long afterwards, and that meant that Canute was the sole king of England. In 1017, Canute united the Anglo-Saxons with the Danish, and London once again began to prosper. After his death, London reverted to the control of the Anglo-Saxons with Edward the Confessor. When Edward died, he had left behind a bit of a succession dispute. King Harold was immediately followed him. However, shortly after King Harold took the crown, King William, the Conqueror, came up from Normandy and took the crown from Harold. And that was pretty much the end of the Anglo-Saxon period. To conclude, the period between the Romans abandoning the city and the crowning of King William the Conqueror was a very, very interesting time. It was a time that was laden with strife, but it was also a time that had a lot of prosperity. London transformed from a dying and decaying city into the most important city of all of England, and all in the span of about 600 years. So, I thought that was fascinating. And this is Chris Kennedy, signing off.